Seems like a plastic set. Yes.
Okay, I'll do that one again. Hello and good evening and welcome to Set Up for Success. I'm Tracy Answer and I'm joined this evening by three incredible gentlemen, and we're going to be talking on the topic of fathers.
And I'm joined this evening by.
Oh, sorry about that feedback. Yeah, as I was saying, I'm joined this evening by three incredible gentlemen. We're going to be talking on the topic of fathers and are fathers necessary? And this topic came about as my daughter came home from school one day and she said to me, Mum, did you know that they're thinking of banning or discontinuing Father's Day? And I said, why? So she goes, because it's not necessary, because not many people have fathers. So they're thinking of banning it. And I thought, what in the world is my daughter talking about? And what in the world has she heard? And because it's Father's Day on Sunday, and I know I'll be celebrating it. I'll be celebrating it on behalf of my husband. I'll be celebrating it on behalf of my late father. So I just thought it would be a good thing to have a discussion with three fathers. So I'm going to, first of all, welcome Dean Okai, and he is going to tell you a bit about himself. So welcome, Dean.
Thank you. Feeling welcomed. So I am Dean Okai Senior to Dean Okai Junior. So father, first and foremost. The founder of ADPAC, the African Diaspora Public Affairs Committee that's set up for African Caribbeans to have parity with every other ethnicity. And a lot of that really comes because I don't want my son to suffer the same that generations have previously. And I realized that if we organize at a national level, then we can circumvent racism by not having to deal with our distant cousins in the way that we currently do. And we'll have a lot more self-determination the more we organize together collectively.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. And our next guest is Mr. Tunde Disu. Hi, Tunde. Would you like to introduce yourself? And I hope you're not frozen. I think he's frozen. I'll wait for him. I'm going to introduce my lovely husband, Mr. Richard Answer. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Richard.
Oh, thank you, babes. So we're married to my lovely wife, Tracy, for 22 years.
It's okay. We said talk about you.
Yeah. 2 beautiful children, teenagers, myself. So I'm a estate planner, a professional estate planner. So I help people plan their estate in terms of their wills, trusts. I'm an expert in trust, financial education. Very passionate about financial education, very passionate about eliminating financial ignorance and helping people just wake up to what's going on today and push themselves. That's me in a nutshell. And thank you for inviting me to this show today. I'm actually honored. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Let's just check to see if Mr. Disu is live. Okay, still having problems with technical issues. Anyway, whenever he's ready, he'll be free to join us. So, yes, gentlemen, when it's Father's Day, do you actually look forward to this day? Do you feel that you are treated the same as mothers are treated at Mother's Day? On Mother's Day?
I don't think we have the same role, so I don't think we have to be treated in the same way. This is a very English thing. I think that as we are appreciated in our own way. We have very different roles. And I think the appreciation is shown in different ways. I personally have never suffered confused admiration for the attention a woman is getting from her children, because it just makes no sense to me. And it's a slightly effeminate approach to what it is. I think we get caught up in a very Western, let's just say English approach to what things are. Fathers are different. We go out, we come home. Traditionally, we spend less time with our children. But we do have a very unique role. And I think that role is not only to be acknowledged and celebrated, but to remain a mainstay in a society where mental health and the demonstration of mental health is far less offensive to people than traditional values.
I think that's a really good answer, actually, because I've never thought about it on a cultural level. I just assume it's Father's Day. It's Father's Day all over the world, and all fathers see Father's Day the same. But you've made me actually think, because my dad, you say it's Father's Day, I just look at you and say, "You're right."
Yeah.
So you've actually made me remember that it's not everybody, and it is a very, I suppose, maybe British and maybe American thing. I mean, hello, Tunde.
Hi, Tracy. Hi.
Maybe you can talk to us about, I mean, you can introduce yourself and then talk to us about Father's Day in Nigeria. I mean, is it celebrated?
Okay. Well, first of all, thanks, Tracy, for inviting me to be on this show today. My name is Tunde Disu. I'm an administrator. I run a company called the Administrator International, which is a consulting company for the third sector, the not-for-profit organization. I'm also a pastor. I'm pastor of Pathway International. And I've known Tracy and Richard for a very long time. I call them very good friends.
So,
Father's Day.
Yeah, so Dean mentioned something which was really good, actually, which I'd never thought about. He said that he feels that Father's Day is a very British concept. And I thought he's actually right, because my dad didn't take any notice of it. So is Father's Day celebrated in Nigeria?
I didn't know of Father's Day celebration until I came to England. So it's not something we do in Nigeria. Well, maybe now they might be doing it, because I know for definite that currently in Nigeria, they celebrate Mother's Day, but I'm not sure if the Father's Day concept has caught up with society yet. But definitely Mother's Day is celebrated.
Brilliant. And are you fussed over how you are celebrated on Father's Day? Is it something that bothered you, or is it you just take it as it comes?
It never bothers me. I just let my wife and the children do what they feel they want to do. I appreciate them every day of the year and forever. So, but it's up to the family, really. I don't make any fuss about it.
Brilliant, thank you, Mr. Answer. On Sunday, if I don't do a thing, myself and the children, would you be fussed? Yes, you would.
No, I would be. I probably would be. Yeah. I never used to be. And I guess I'm born here, so I've only known Father's Day. I've never not known Father's Day.
Yeah.
It wasn't a big deal. I've never really celebrated it too fast as I think as most men do. We just say thank you very much. I more make a fuss of the mother and encourage the children to make a fuss of the mother. So maybe, but I think maybe because I make so much of a fuss, maybe that one day of the year, I think, okay, a little bit of recognition would be nice, if I'll be honest. But it's not a big deal. It's not a huge deal. It's not gonna, not gonna lose sleep over it. That's for sure.
Brilliant. One thing I've noticed, and it confuses me, and so you gentlemen can unconfuse me, is women getting Father's Day cards, and I'm like, I don't get that. Because if it's Father's Day, it should be Father's Day. Why would you give a woman a Father's Day card? But maybe someone who was raised by a woman only.
No.
Big deal.
I vehemently disagree. Listen, it's foolishness. And what it is part of this postmodernist nonsense individualism, where a coven of witches will encourage their sister to say that because the man isn't there, you should get both. Well, here's the thing. No woman is capable of in any way, shape, or form being a father. No man is capable in any way, shape, or form of being a mother. A woman as a mother serves a very specific and unique role. As a man who is a father serves a very special and unique role. So no matter two same-sex couplings may kid themselves that they are mommy and daddy, just like when English people walk their dogs and they walk in the kids, nothing is so. Men are fathers, women are, and they are unique and important roles. And when men aren't in the sons' lives, they need a male role model to understand what a successful and effective man looks like in the world. I would recommend rites of passage for two-parent families and one-parent families, so that they're uniquely aware of themselves as young Africans in Britain, and also exposed to a community of men and women for their rites of passage. But women getting Father's Day cards? No.
Thank you, Dean. Anybody else got anything to add on that? Tunde?
Actually, I've never seen or heard of women receiving Father's Day card, but that is not to say it's not prevalent. I can only express an opinion, and that goes this way. It's either the child or the children that is giving the mother a Father's Day card. Maybe it's a single parent, or they're doing it in honor of their father. But because he's not there for whatever reason, somebody needs to receive it. I wouldn't think, this is my opinion, that giving the woman a Father's Day card makes her qualify to be the father, or that she might even be playing the role of a father to a certain degree. But like Dean rightly said, irrespective of how good you are as a man, you can never be the mother, and vice versa. But that is not to say the roles don't overlap at some point. And maybe it's the recognition of that overlapping sequence that makes the children give the mother a card meant for their father because he's not there.
Right.
But like I said, I've not seen it, and I've never come across that.
Thank you. I've got a question. So
you say something? I want to say
if you want to say something, oh, sorry, sweetie, go on.
No, I think I was raised by a single parent, so I'm going to come from my perspective. Now, I agree partly what Dean says. A man cannot replace a woman cannot replace a man. I think that's absolutely on point. I agree with what Lucia said, that sometimes the roles are overlapped or coalesced in some ways. I wouldn't give my mum a Father's Day card, but I'd thank her for stepping up to be that father role when I needed her to be there.
Yeah.
When I didn't know anything else. So those times when I maybe want to go play football or basketball or go to the park or whatever, and there's no one to take me to the park as the man and kick a ball, so she has to fulfill that role. Well, thank you, Mum, for making that happen. Now, I'm not taking things away. It opens a massive topic because obviously men are, what are we doing, etc., etc. I'm not going to open that door right now, but I would happily recognize my mum, not necessarily on Father's Day, whenever it's necessary, to say, well, thank you for stepping in that role at that time when I need you. But it doesn't negate the fact that, because I strongly believe, I'm raising two children, and I strongly believe that a man needs to have his presence in the home just as much as a woman needs to have her presence in the home. So that would be my position.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. So my next question is, who or where did you learn what a good father should be from? So where did you learn about how a good father should be from. Dean, would you like to go first?
Yeah, observation from friends and peers. My dad is a musician. He's a wonderful man. The fathering responsibility wasn't necessarily as much. And my parents got divorced when I was 13. And the fathering role wasn't necessarily there. So I learned by observing friends. I remember one of my friend's sons had fallen over and hurt himself. And just as he's about to start crying, let me kiss your war wounds. Look at that scar. That's going to form a beautiful scar. And immediately the boys jumped up like that. And you pick these things up. And, you know, there was a stage where I would overcompensate with my son. And then you realize that doesn't work because they start to get spoiled and there's a balance. So it's really a lot of observation wherever I used to see things functioning and just applying them immediately. So sometimes people need that process of osmosis. I would just see it and say, that works, apply it. I remember when my son was a toddler and I was walking with him and I'm bending down to hold his hand. Now I'm 6'2". He's about 2 foot, whatever he was. And one of my neighbors said, no, all they need is 2 fingers, an Arab gentleman. So I've given him, and he's holding my 2 fingers like that. I'm standing straight, he's upright, and it's very simple. I think the messages are all around us.
Yes.
And it depends whether you are a sponge or like a stone in water that you will never absorb. It comes down to you. But the messages are all around us.
Brilliant. Thank you, Dean. Tunde.
Yeah. I had my father till when he died in 95. I spent considerable amount with him throughout my up when I was growing up. But the relationship was not that of. It wasn't like you're learning or there's a concerted effort to teach you something. More or less, it was the relationship was that of dread and fear. More of that than love and care. He wasn't a wicked man. I mean, I love my father till forever. He's my role model. He played a vital part in my upbringing, but there was no that point of incident where you call this a learning point for a child. I can't remember my father having a one-on-one or a general conversation along the line of this is what a man should do, this is how a man should behave. In all of my years till he died, I can only remember my father giving me a hug once. Now, does that make him bad? No, because that's all he knew. That was the culture and the tradition and the way they relate to their children in those days. So where did we then learn how to be good father? I think it comes down to, like Dean said, observing. Exposure has really helped me personally. Coming to England when I did, before I started having my children, that really helped me to see the other side of how to relate to your children without the physical discipline being the head of the arrow in your relationship with them. So I observed, I read books, I saw people, I observed others, how they relate one to between them and their children, and I picked up a lot from that. Added to that was the fact that I had the advantage of my wife being British and living here for a considerable number of years before I joined her. And so when I came, I wasn't just dropped in the middle of the ocean with no paddle. I had somebody, as it were, to hold my hands and just help me learn the new things, understand the new system. And so from there, we just push on really. So that's how I would say I've seen, learned, and taken on board the little that I know. And so for me, I make it a focal point of my interaction with my children to relate to them in a better way, in a more understanding way than I had growing up.
Brilliant. Thank you. Richard?
Every day's a work in progress for me, I think. You know, I'm always trying to learn.
To the club.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I think I didn't have a model to go by. All I had was a standard that I wanted to uphold. So maybe not replicate the experiences that I've been through, try to deliver experiences that I wanted to have myself when I was younger. So there's, and obviously emulate friends who I'm around, who have been fathers to me in one way, shape, or form, and just try to emulate a good fatherhood. I think the Bible has been very influential to me personally in fatherhood, and just reading certain stories, anecdotal scenarios where you could just say, well, you know what, I like that situation, I like that outcome. Let me try and emulate it how I can. Far from perfect, nowhere near perfect. But yeah, every day is a work in progress. For me, that's the main.
Brilliant. So the good thing about it, all of you have got sons. So the next thing is, how are you preparing your sons to be fathers and also to treat women?
Please, I say for my son, when I speak to him, one, I want him to be a child as long as possible. I have the conversations with him, but I want him to be a child as long as possible. I think a lot of it comes from what they see. I'm not with my son's mum now, and the one thing that I made sure was that he never saw us argue in front of each other. Never had any of that kind of contention that I grew up with my mum and dad, because it would be a constant warfare from my earliest memories, the arguing and the tensions that had. But then they would make up and it would be very loving. However, those parts do form a lot of your earliest memories and how it plays out into your adulthood. And I always wanted to make sure that he never had that as an example to see, because it's very easy to fall into. And what I see as a byproduct of that, even having the conversations with him now, is that he's very calm. And where people are very happy or get very low, he's quite content within situations, and he can articulate that and feel that. And I pray that that's what he brings to relationships as a balanced man, is that contentness, a sort of is what it is attitude. Initially, when he used to do that, I think this young man is saying what he thinks I want to hear, but it remains, and he has, it is what it is attitude. And the older he gets and the more conversations we have, the more balanced I see him become.
And so in terms of his relating to women, is there anything that you say to him in that respect?
I do. I test him all the time, but my son is a nerd. He's very different from me at 14. If I could have been jumping from I was 13, I would have. But my son is a very different conundrum. Like in this world today, with serious youth violence, my son doesn't actually go anywhere. And when I was his age, I was getting drunk every week. I will go from Kennington to Kentish Town and drink with my friend who was 17. But it's a very different world today. And because we don't have the luxury of making another one if anything happens to them. But similarly, as we don't desire for him to go anywhere at the moment, he's quite happy at home. So when this transition comes, I'm sure it's going to be like a nuclear bomb overnight, like dogs in summertime when he wants to jump. But currently, it's not a major concern. So we have the conversations, but they just get skirted around because it's not a particular interest.
Right.
And when it is, obviously, the conversations evolve. However, I'm ready.
You're ready. Good, good, good. Excellent. So, Tunde, how are you preparing your handsome Ore?
I think from the get-go, Ore and I we've had this, we have this very cordial, intimate and very close relationship. Even when we're not talking, we know definitely that we are together. And that has really helped me in talking to him. He's very easy to talk to. And secondly, while he was growing up, the nature of my job at that time required me to always be around, to be in one place for a long time. We're always in church, as you guys know. And when I'm not in church, I'm at home. And so my journey is a triangular one: home, church, where church is work. So it's just from one point to another. And most of the time we are together. So that has really helped us to gel together and to make it easy for us to talk as well. In terms of his views and his relationship, or how he relates to ladies or to female, the good thing with us is we have, as men in this, we are outnumbered. We have three, my wife and our two daughters, and just the two of us are men. And so that provided a unique platform for us to practice, to see in action how we relate one to another. And one of the things, and I've said this to maybe Richard and any of my friends in the past, one of the things I am eternally grateful to God for is that the relationship between our three children, from childhood till now that the three of them are adults, has been so easy, smooth, cordial, mutual respect, and it has just been a blessing. We have never had to say, okay, guys, sit down, let's settle this quarrel between the three of you or between two of you. It's never happened. So that mutual respect has been there from the beginning, and that has grown to now that he's old enough to be in a relationship. I can also see that played out in his life. So I'm grateful to God for that.
Brilliant. Mr. Richard?
Well, okay, so for the first part of the question, I'm very much, a man must respect a woman, and I'm staunch on manners. So, chivalry is my thing. Yeah. So if I see anything contrary to that, as you know, Tracy, that's the only thing that probably will rub me up the wrong way very, very quickly. And I'm still learning to pace myself and show what's the word? Just be consistent in my temperament. I'm very consistent in most things. A lot of things can happen and I won't get upset. But if I see a disrespect towards a woman, especially from another man, for some reason that just really aggravates me to the point. So now, thank God I don't see that in my children. My son, he has his moments, but generally he's an extremely placid young man. And I hope that my example towards how he sees me interacting towards his mother will rub off. I'll hopefully start seeing that with him, because he's a boy, so he loves to play. He likes to fight. He likes to get involved. He likes to, everything that a boy does. Yeah, he's just very much a hands-on young man. He's very close to his mother. Still has his baby tendencies, I guess, and that can get me a little bit not upset, just frustrated. Like, child, boy, can you just go to sleep or whatever? But generally speaking, no issues there. But I will put my foot down if I see or hear anything that I feel is a disrespect towards whether it's his mother or any woman. For me, it's a real big, it's a high priority for me. The challenge that I have, maybe from my upbringing, is that when you walk out your front door, that's not necessarily replicated or not necessarily agreed upon or even followed in general. Sometimes it can be seen as a sign of weakness. I've seen that in my life as I've grown up, and I've had to kind of maybe curb in some areas or hold back in some areas. But there's a line that I won't cross, and there's a line that I won't allow to be crossed in certain respects. And I think, to me, I don't care what goes on. And my children are aware of that. They'll know, okay, you know what? If they're rude to their mum, they'll know it. If someone else is rude to their mum, they'll say, don't go there. So for me, it's important. So yes, I hope I've answered the question. So I think, at the end of the day, it's important. It's absolutely important. I just feel, as a man, if you don't know how to show respect to a lady, can't control your temper, can't control your temperament, don't know how to speak to them properly, regardless of how you feel, then if you can't control yourself, there's a problem. If you can't control yourself around a lady, there's a problem. That's how I see it. Another man will talk to you straight and deal with you, and then you'll test the size of a man from his character, especially around other men. But if you don't know how to behave or conduct yourself around a woman, regardless of how she may be, as far as I'm concerned, there's an issue, and it needs to be dealt with immediately. So, that's my point.
Thank you.
I just very quickly wanted to pick up on that point. That is something that boys learn from fathers, is the thing of whereas sometimes a woman may be angry and speak to children in a particular way, or even the men, it's like when I'm angry, I tend to go inside because I don't want to say the things that might hurt you. I don't want to say the things that would be reactionary. So sometimes it looks like a shield locking down, but I don't want to react. I don't want to explode. And I just don't want to say the things that would be hurtful, that can be regretful. Yeah. And a man should know that he has a lot of power with his mouth.
Yes.
Sometimes women will throw the powerful things from your mouths and it's throwaway. But if a man says something from his mouth, it's very powerful. And the impact is going to last.
Wow, brilliant.
No, I second that. And, I think that's, if I'll be honest, that's areas where I know I'm always developing.
All of us.
I'm always developing that area. And I think I thought I had it down when I was younger. Nothing used to get me upset when I was younger. I think, and now children will push buttons. And I think, right, you got to be careful. But there's a line that's crossed, and sometimes it's hard to pull me back. And and if I'll be honest, it's down to having manners, especially towards their mother. I think that's the one thing that would really push me the wrong way. Manners towards me, again, but I feel so I agree with what you're saying, Dean. The man has power, and what we say will have an impact on our sons and our daughters. So for me, I would hold in my hand, say it's a work in progress. Absolutely.
Well, that leads us on to the next point, looking at discipline of our children. Who do you see that as any particular role? Should it be the man? Should it be the father? Should it be the mother? Should it be a joint effort? How should discipline be dealt with in the home? Dean?
For me, it's always been a joint thing, but there are different ways of dealing with it. Like, I had a contract with myself that I never wanted to beat my child. You know, this thing of physically beating a child, I don't know what it ever resolved with me when I was a child. And I remember one day I was creaming my son before going to school when he's getting dressed. And I'm saying, come in, he keeps dancing and messing about. And I popped his bum and he looked at me like it was such a betrayal. And I thought, oh, Jesus. He started to cry and he looked at me. It was the face of betrayal. And I thought that's the last time I want to put my hand on him. But also, I have to up my skills with my mouth for him to conform. And that means we have to up our communication in our relationship, because if I can't put my hands on you, I'm definitely not going to tolerate you going left. And I remember I developed a thing where I will count 1, 2. I said, what will happen if you get to 3? I don't know. I never got to 3. So, I had hoped I would never get to 3. And I don't remember, my son is 14. I never counted like that after he was like 6 or 7. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you for that. Tunde?
Yeah, the issue of discipline in the house is one of, in my opinion, one of the areas where society has failed the children of nowadays, where they have eroded or they have stripped the family or the parents that the responsibility. And unfortunately, it's not as if there is an alternative for the children out there. The teachers can't discipline them, society can't discipline them, their parents can't discipline them, and then we wonder why we have this type of children in our hands. But bringing back home, I think the issue of discipline, I have come to understand it in a different light from the type of discipline I was exposed to when I was growing up. From a Nigerian perspective, the type of discipline you get is more physical.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have to have, they don't have to have a good reason. They just have to think that you've earned it, and they will give it to you in full measure. But as parents, one of the things that we establish when we start having our children is to always have, as much as possible, a united voice in where the discipline lines are. And we laid it down to everybody. It was clear to the children where the lines are. And you can be yourself, have fun, but just recognize where that line is. And for as long as you don't cross the line, you'll find we will have fun, we'll play, we'll do all of that. But even within the context of having fun, everybody recognizes where those lines are, and they respect those lines. So the need for exerting discipline or enforcing discipline has really, in our home, has really not been an issue. Now, does that mean our children are wrapped in gold and never done anything untoward? That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, because the understanding was established early in their lives, and they know that those lines will be enforced if you cross them, it kept everybody within the boundary of what is allowed, what is permitted, what you can, quote and unquote, get away with before. And so the issue of discipline has been something, the Bible talks about train up a child. It's not just about focusing the child on what they will become in life. Part of it is putting these landmarks in place. As somebody once said, it is wrong of you to punish somebody on something you have not trained them how to do. Unless you have established the law, you can't then hold them accountable for that law. And so for me, the issue of discipline is that of let them know where the lines are. let them know what the consequences of crossing those lines are. And if and when those lines are crossed, do not shy away from enforcing it, because again, that is where some parents, that is where they've dropped the ball, in my opinion. They've established the lines, and then the children will cross the line, and then they will not enforce it. You are invariably training them not to be responsible. You are training them you can get away with anything. And so they grow up with that mentality. And like everything, we're all human beings. Give them an inch, they'll take a yard. And before you know it, they're out of control. So that's how we have established the issue of discipline in our home.
Brilliant. Excellent. Thank you, Tunde. So, Mr. Richard.
Discipline. Wow. I consider myself a bit of a disciplinarian. Maybe to my fault, I don't know. It's a tough one. When I was growing up, it's just my mum. One look across the room, and you know it's time to be quiet or stop what you're doing. It's over, and I'm like, okay, fine. And if I did push it a little bit, then I'd know to expect something. A twisting of the ear or a good telling off or extra chores or something. And that's just my mum. And I tower over her. And she would still speak, and I'd show respect. Now, how she delivered that, I have no idea why that works. But it did between me and my sisters, it works. Yeah. Today, my opinion, I blame social media. You can raise your children, and then you kind of let them out in the world, and all of a sudden you're fighting against things that hang on. I know we've talked about X, we talked about why is it now so-called acceptable about certain things, and there's a challenge, there's a fight. When I was growing up, there wasn't social media, it was 4 channels on TV, right? So, and even TV respected boundaries, like, Watershed at 7 o'clock. And so you knew, okay, after 7 o'clock, you don't watch certain programs. If you do, okay, well, you're pushing the boat. Today, it's like, your kids have got Netflix accounts. They can do whatever, watch whatever. They're exposed to things that they're not supposed to be exposed to, computer games, etc., etc. So as a parent in this day and age, and trying to instill discipline, and then we talk about the whole physical discipline, like smacking, that doesn't work. Especially as you're trying to get older, it's abusive. Shouting, it's like, it doesn't work. It's just repetitive. It's a scratch record. So how do you get across to your children? How is your voice the loudest voice that they will hear and respect? And when they're outside, it's that small niggling voice at the back of their head saying, you know what, I better not go there. Now, thank God, I believe my children still have that niggling voice in the back of their head, like, I shouldn't go there. And their children, they're going to explore, they're going to expand, they want to see what's going on. They don't want to be the only one not doing something. Yeah, we're all like that. So it's a challenge, I think, I'm always learning, especially from Tracy, to instill discipline in a way that they know if I'm, and sometimes I look at myself, am I just being old and being just unnecessarily miserable or unnecessarily, just restricting them from just doing what they could be doing. And I have to learn to relax in certain areas. And so what does that mean as a man? Am I fearful of something? Why I get angry if I see something happening? So do I have an issue? All those little things I have to question myself in terms of this whole discipline and standard for our children. But ultimately, as I think I agree with what Tunde said, it's being consistent. I like what Dean was saying. You set a standard not to smack your child. I think for me, the only standard in my mind was to be a consistent husband and be a consistent father. I didn't go as far as thinking about how would I discipline my children, and plus, children, every child's different, right? So
yeah, definitely
will appreciate your words. Another child may naturally just want to challenge you, and you got to think. And then you got the whole remit again about, well, whatever I do will mirror on the child. So how do you not make that an issue? They're a canvas and it's being painted every single day. So and demonstrating love every single time. For me, it's challenging. Sometimes you have to hold you, give them a room to explore, and demonstrate. Being an example. You know, and I think it's just teenage years at the moment. So it's just one of those things that, you know, I don't like the cliche, but it seems to be something that it's teenage children need to go through what they need to go through. So my mum reminds me, I forget my teenage years. I thought I was a model teenager, but obviously I wasn't. So and having this high esteem, this high standard on these children, and I myself, like, well, you know, if I was like this, why are you not like that? You can't. I can't treat my children that way. So as I said, I'm still learning. Got to calm down, allow them to grow, and you know, when I step back and overall, they're good children. My son, you know, he's not a troublemaker. He doesn't get involved with trouble. He doesn't mix with the wrong crowds. You know, he's got wisdom. You know, he sees things ahead of time, and I respect him for that. You know, and yeah, he speaks out, but he speaks out when he needs to, with merit, and he communicates with merit, and he delivers a strong argument. And when I look at how I am and his mother, well, no wonder he likes to speak out, because that's how we are. So at the end of the day, I've got to give God thanks and say, well, look, at the end of the day, you know, it could be far worse. There's no perfection. And as I said, for me, I have to keep looking in the mirror at myself and say, right, Richard, come on, how much better can you do today? So yeah, at the end of the day, yeah, Tracy, I don't want to bombard the whole conversation, but yeah.
No, you're not. You're not. Do you mind if I just impact on something that Richard said?
Yeah.
Because it resonated with me. There was a point like where the conflict came between me and my son. I think it was the turning. You know, when they start to get their own mind. I think he was about 12, and a lot of the conflict was about me projecting who I am onto him, and he's very different. My son is a nerd. Like we have a lot of the same characteristics in terms of creativity, but I was a lot more worldly, and I'm projecting certain things onto him, and I had to pause because I could see my son looking at me like, why? And then I stopped and I started to bite my tongue, and I said, this isn't him. Listen to him for how to deal with him. And then I saw the relationship 180 from this period between like 12 and mid 13 to come to a place of peace where, like you say, spirited and having your opinion, where we can have debates because you're a young man. I don't want you to go into the world and be fussy. I want you to be in the world and project yourself. So when we talk, you talk as a man and young man and you assert yourself. There's always respect. But I stopped the very important thing that I recognize. I stopped projecting who I was in my expectation on him, because he's his own person. And after that, much more plain sailing.
Brilliant. That's really good. Tunde, go on, Tunde.
Yeah, and I think as parents, one of the things that we also must understand is, like Dean just said, understand that these children they've grown, not just in stature, they've grown in their formative way, they've grown in their intellect, they've grown in their emotions, they've grown all around. And one of the common mistakes that parents that we make is not to recognize that growth in our child. Not understanding that with that growth comes different levels and different developments, and therefore some of the things that we've said before and they've obediently just follow through. Now they're questioning that we need to be careful not to take that to mean they're being rude or being confrontational. No, it's just where they are in their own developmental journey, and it will help the relationship between us and them to recognize that, to understand that, but most importantly to respect that. Because I have seen in some instances where parents and children who were very close suddenly grew apart because the parents it's the parent or parents are failing to recognize where that child is and give them the room to grow and develop as an individual, like Dean was saying.
Brilliant.
I was guilty.
Mhm. So Tunde, I'm gonna ask you this question. So how, in terms of you've got girls and you've got a boy, how differently did you parent your girls compared to your boy?
That's interesting. I was thinking about that yesterday and today, trying to just see what the differences are in my dealings with them. Obviously, you got to recognize that there's the male and the female, and that difference is there. But I hand on heart, I can't tell you I had a different mentality or mindset when I was relating to the girls, and when I just related to them as my children, gave them the same time, the same love, the same openness, the same warmth, the same everything. But again, then comes a time when you, like I was saying just now, when you've got to then respect where the girls are in their development and allow them to grow and express themselves in that aspect. And same with our son. So trying to draw a line in how I relate to, or how in my relationship with the boy and the girls, I wouldn't draw a line per se between them, rather than to just love them openly, genuinely, sincerely, and affectionately, and then let the relationship just evolve as we go along. But one thing I deliberately did was to create time for my girls to talk with them, not about anything particular, but to let them understand that they can always talk to me about anything and everything. My children will tell you it's become a broken record where I've said there is nothing on earth that you can do. I don't care how bad, terrible, and just gross it is. The first person you must think of that needs to know about it, the one person you can confide in, you can openly just talk to, it's me.
Yeah.
And that has helped them in their development, but more so in our relationship, so that if there's anything bothering them, even when they're not saying it, I can just pull them. For instance, a few days ago, I called Ife and said, Ife, let's talk. She said, about what? I said, about anything. And we spent maybe 20 minutes just bantering on different things, what's happening about it, how about that, where is this one? And I do that deliberately to instill in them that, yes, you are grown, yes, you're an adult now. It has not taken away my availability, my openness to you, and you have my time anytime. So that I don't know if that answers your question, but
No, it's
that's
fine.
the way I have handled my relationship with girls, or with my children, all three of them.
Very important.
Oh, very important. So this question goes out, anyone can answer it. So how important is a father in terms of a young girl's development? How important? What do you think a father adds to a young girl's development?
Tunde will speak from
Is
experience.
that for me?
Anyone who'd like to take it?
Oh,
Do you want to take it, Tunde?
Sorry, repeat the question again.
How important is a father in a young girl's development?
Oh, very, very, extremely important, and that is not taken away from the importance of of a girl child building a relationship with her mother as well. But when it comes to the relationship between the father and the daughter, I'm sure, Richard, you probably have noticed this. For whatever reason, the male child seems to just lean more towards the mother, and the female child tends to lean more towards their father. If there is harmony, obviously. In terms of handling the relationship between me and our girls, one of the things I've tried to do, and I hope I'm still work in progress, is to let them know that, number one, there's nothing wrong with them.
Mm-hmm.
They are just perfect in the way God made them.
Mm-hmm.
And don't allow anybody to make you think less of yourself than who God says you are.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have instilled that in them, in the way I handle them, in the way I talk to them, in the way I relate to them, in the way I approach them with anything, to instill in them that sense of, this man respects me, this man honors me, this man values me, and this man treats me well.
Mm-hmm.
And that, for me, is an area where fathers have perhaps the biggest responsibility when it comes to the growth and the development, and in fact, the whole life of their daughters. Because you are the first man or the first species of the opposite sex that
Mm-hmm.
they encounter, that they interact with, that they relate to. And the way you relate to them builds a foundation. It paints a picture. It gives them an expectation of what to expect from other men as they grow and out there in the world. So if you have not, number one, instilled in them that self-confidence and self-esteem, and let them know they are great, they are wonderful, they are beautiful, they are excellent. When they go out, if that foundation is not there, the natural tendency for human beings is to look for affirmation, is to look for recognition, is to look for appreciation. And if you have not given that to them from the house, that is what is going to drive them when they go out. And unfortunately, many girls have ended up in the wrong place with the wrong crowd, with the wrong person, not because they are in themselves bad people, but because of that hunger for that
Mm-hmm.
which the father had not given to them from the beginning.
But
Thank you.
that actually goes both ways.
Mm.
And when you say that about your daughters, which is absolutely correct, I realize that in you saying it, it's the same for boys, because it's the same recognition that boys look for when the
Yes.
father doesn't have that.
Yeah.
And it's like I took my son to a shooting range with the replica guns, and he was young. I think he was about 10. And I said to my sister, I'm going to take my nephew. No, he's not touching guns, blah, 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 blah. And between my son and nephew, like what they think is exciting when you see boys with foolishness. And my nephew is a good boy. But he found that more exciting from other boys. And there was nothing that my son wanted to do that I found taboo. Like that point where you said there's nothing so bad. Let's do it and get rid of the excitement and do it with me. Even my son is 14. I say, you want to sit down and have a nip of drink with your dad? This is where you learn to drink. This is where you learn to do the things and feel no way about it. Because if you go out and do it in the world, you're going to find out the hard way. And I think sometimes when we put taboo on things that it's not necessary, we just create more curiosity out in the world. And that one about you being endorsed by people externally, there's nobody that is more important for you to be endorsed by than your parents or than your family. So when they have that hunger, it's because there's a lack. Wherever there's lack, there's a hunger outside.
Brilliant. Thank you. Richard, do you have anything to add?
I agree on all counts. I think it's necessary for a man to be in the presence, a good man to be in the presence of a daughter and a son. I have no shame in hugging my son and giving him I love him, endorsing him and telling that he's awesome. I have no shame telling my daughter that she's beautiful. She's the most gorgeous girl. I have no shame in showing love to my wife in front of my children, so they understand how a man should love a woman, and embrace a woman and understand what she should expect from a man, and my son how to express love towards a woman. To me, those things are really, really important. I will shower Tracy as much as I can with the best I can, and my children will be like, so if I'm below standard, they'll say, "Daddy, what is this?" Because they know I have a high standard towards their mum and towards them. I'm not. They understand it's not just about money. It's not about this whole embracing of materialism. It's about respecting ourselves, and demonstrating that with words. I think it's absolutely important, and expressing it in truth. So I will tell myself, I don't believe in this telling someone you love them when they're gone.
Absolutely.
I believe in, if I love you, I'm going to tell you I love you. I'm going to tell you all the time. I'm going to pray over you. If I'm going to speak positive words in your life, I'm going to declare wellness in you. If someone does you wrong, I want to know. And I will do something about it in the appropriate way and teach my children how to do it. Things, pick their battles, pick their fights, choose when to fight, when to keep quiet, understand, what to do in different circumstances, and try and demonstrate that as best I can. So I agree. How you speak to your children is important. And I'm nowhere near a saint, but I understand the importance of demonstrating that to our children as much as possible.
Brilliant. It's so important for our children to know that they have someone that is behind them. I think that's priceless. When a child knows mommy and daddy has got their back. Mommy and daddy is behind them 100%. If it's in their academics, if it's watching them in a play, sports, whatever. As you said, if someone offends them, I think a lot of the time, our children will bottle a lot of things up, especially with things happening at school, or even if it's a teacher upsetting them. But to know that they've got a mum and a dad that has got their back and will inquire as to what's up and is there for them to defend them, I think that makes a world of difference to a child. So yeah, we have come to the end of our hour. That was really, really quick. I don't know where Tinder is just disappeared to.
We were blessed to have him on now.
We were.
With the internet trouble in the beginning, because the wisdoms he conveyed were invaluable.
Yeah, he is such an amazing father. And he's not someone who just says it. He lives it. And I
get that sense.
Yeah, he lives it, and that's one of the reasons why I really wanted him on. So yeah. Before we finish, I just wanted to know if there's anything on your heart that you wanted to share with the nation, with the people watching, anything about fatherhood, any last closing remarks, Dean?
Yeah, absolutely. The one thing I would say that I learned is to, one, look at them, know what their passion is and support their passion. And not think so much along these English lines of getting a job or studying to have this career. Whatever their passion is, feed their passion. And what I'm doing with my son is teaching him to enjoy that, and that you can make money from that when you are of age to make money from that. But sometimes we can put so much pressure on them that they may not even enjoy the thing anymore, that they actually had passion for. And the last thing, I think that's one of the biggest crimes we can have for our children, is not to back them in whatever their passion is, and just let them grow and expand in it in their own natural and organic way, and just be behind them and support their little hobbies financially in any way, because that's the thing that may end up making them £1 million. It's the thing that they will learn to know their value, that if you value it, when they go in the world, nobody can tell them that's not worth money, or that they don't have expertise in that. So it's just where sometimes we get so much wrapped up in this system, we adopt the thing in school where they tell you, this is the most important thing. And then we're on top of them. Yeah, it's not the most important thing. What you have in your chest, which is your innate passion, that's the most important thing. Becoming who you're supposed to be in the most organic route to becoming who you're supposed to be.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Tunde, do you have any final words of wisdom? I mean, everything you said today was words of wisdom. Do you have any closing words of wisdom?
Yes, please. I want to start by, first of all, giving a big shout out to mothers out there. Fathers, as good as we think we are, in every family, mothers primarily raise the children. And when I was preparing for this program, I came up with this thought that every family is like a garden. And within the garden, you have flowers, you have vegetables, and all of that. But the real gardener, the person that get their hands dirty, are the mothers. And the fathers are like the fences around the garden that keeps intruders away from walking all over, and preserve the peace and the security of what's inside. And finally, there is a quote I saw from President Barack Obama. And I want to mention that because I think the society we're losing a lot of good things in the society, all in the name of political correctness. This idea of, there was a time where father knows best. Then we moved to the place of father knows nothing. We are now at the place where who needs a father? And it's a disaster coming ahead of society. But in conclusion, this is what President Barack Obama said. He said, of all the rocks upon which we build our lives, we are reminded that family is the most important. And we are called to recognize and honor how critical every father is to that foundation. They are teachers and coaches. They are mentors and role models. They are examples of success and the men who constantly push the family towards it. And so, yes, fathers may not be everything the mothers want these days, but I tell you the truth, they are still as important as they were 100 years ago. Thank you, Tracy, for this opportunity. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And Richard, do you have any closing remarks?
I think this was an absolutely valuable time. So thank you, Tracy, for organising this. I guess indirectly promoting fatherhood as a mother yourself. To Disu, yes, we've been friends, but I'd say you've been a father figure to me. Yeah, and I think for men, it's important as fathers ourselves to have fathers to confide in, to talk to, not necessarily physical fathers or natural fathers, but spiritual fathers, and one that you can learn from. Whether that's in entrepreneurship, whether that's in how to be a better father or a better husband. When you mess up, who can you go to as a man? I think men, we need to learn how to be men and be vulnerable. And Disu has been that guy to me. Yeah, I appreciate you in that realm. Dean, yeah, first time we've met virtually, but I follow you on Facebook. I see what you do. I see you operate in the community. I see what you stand for, and that has an impact on me. So thank you. Yeah.
And these things are reciprocal.
Yeah, absolutely. So so I said all that to say that let's continue to let our fires light up. And again, I reciprocate what Disu says. You know, without Tracy, not sure how things would progress. You know, and yeah, I love you to the bone. Thank you so much for having me on as a special guest. I appreciate you. So thank you for that.
Nice.
No, thank you so much, all three of you, for your time, for giving up your time and your family. I really appreciate it. And thank you all for watching. And hopefully you will share this video. You will like my channel, share it, subscribe to it. And I'll see you in 2 weeks' time for our next episode of Set Up for Success. Bye.